Okay, we're about less than 30 days away from the 2026 season. And if 2026 doesn't work, Formula One has no excuses left. I mean, for one, they have sold us a whole bill of goods, much of which revolves around me paying a whole lot more money to subscribe to Formula One and having an insane amount of money spent on all kinds of merchandise. So 2026 isn't just a regulations change, in my opinion. It is a credibility reset. New cars, new engine, new philosophy. Formula One has promised for years that the next reset will fix the sport, right? Does anyone remember that? So there's no excuses if that doesn't happen, right? So today, what I want to do with you, Shez, is do not a prediction show because I know how much you love it. No, you don't. I just want us to do a bit of a wish list, right? I want us to consider five things that need to happen in 2026 if F1 is going to deliver in a way that matters. Now, I have five things for you, Shez, so you can come on, and we're gonna go right into it, right? Shez, here are my five things. I'm gonna give it to you, and then we're gonna go one by one. First, the regulations actually have to work. No closer, not closer than before, or just not on certain tracks all the freaking time. I want Red Bull, I want Ferrari, I want Mercedes. Heck, I even want Aston Martin back on pure pace and Lance Stroll to be competing for a championship. If one team disappears again, you cannot say it's luck. It's all about design. Second, the driver hierarchy needs to be exposed. I mean, this is the stuff that we live for, Shez. Is Max really good? Do the new regulations remove his comfort and muscle memory and his reputation? Or will Lewis still be the legend that he has always been and prove to be elite, stomping all these young guns, those five drivers that we think have arguably been better than him in the last 4 or 5 years, right? Third, a proper teammate war. No more papaya rules. I don't know if you guys caught this, but papaya rules are changing for 2026. It's something we have been ahead of the curve on here on the Tired GP. So two drivers, same car, no clear number one, having strategy tension, radio messages, blocking each other during pit stops and like all that kind of stuff. Team principles, sweating, like that's the kind of stuff that we need to see happen. So teammate battles in the purest sense in F1, not the way it's been done before, not Schumacher, not Sebastian Vettel, none of that. New thing. Number four, and this is my favorite. We need a competent Ferrari. We just do. I mean, look, man. I know. You guys think I'm a homer here, but Ferrari are like the Los Angeles Lakers of Formula One. When they're relevant, everything is great. Like that's what you want. I'm not saying they'll go ahead and win everything. I just think they need to be competent. That's all. And finally, power unit chaos, which is already started. So we're already talking about compression ratios and this and that and fuel and all that. So real performance gaps. No more reliability failures, but a lot of political tension and rule clarification, which it sounds like we're on the cusp of doing that anyway. So when engines matter, the true F1 character, Shez, as you say, shows up, right? So for truly rebuilding the sport, which Formula One has been telling us for the longest of times, right? We have caps now, et cetera, et cetera. More parity, more pure competition. So let's not go into 2026 quietly, Shez. So today I thought we'd get tired and reckless, Shez. So thank you for joining me in this madness.
Where else would I be?
Yeah, I know. What have you been doing? What are you reading more compression ratio stuff? Like, what have you been doing?
No, I was watching. I was watching Aaron Brockovich this morning. Actually, yeah, it's fun.
Okay, wow. All right, look at you, man. Are you kicking it up for the Super Bowl? You ready this week? Do you have a team?
What's the Super Bowl?
Oh man, we're not going to allow you to come in there. Okay, Shez, let's go through these. My top 5 scenarios. Tell me I am not crazy because I need the validation today on this amazing hot day in Los Angeles. Number 1, Shez, dream scenario for 2025. The regulations actually work and there's a genuine 4-team, 5-team, 6-team title fight on pure pace. What do you think of that?
Yes, I would love that. But is this a conversation about wanting it to happen, or will it actually happen?
It's a dream scenario, Shez. What part of that do you not understand?
That's the end of that one. Then done. Yes, I want that.
Who do you want to see, and why?
Don't care.
Come on, give me something.
Genuinely, it doesn't matter. Look, what's more interesting is your entire monologue about this being the last chance for Formula One. They said they were gonna fix it.
Yes.
Did they actually say that?
Yeah, I mean, they did kind of promise it, no? Why else
Did
do you think
they?
they're doing these? They're signing deals, they've expanded the calendar, they're going to new tracks, they're
Okay, so
bumping off
what
old
does
tracks. So what is it?
fixing Formula One mean to you?
So what I really mean is, we have a season where you do not know genuinely until the end which one of four or five drivers will kind of be there, right?
Okay,
And keep in mind again, I know this is sort of tongue in cheek, but there's a reason there have been cost caps, right? There's a reason that they're having new teams enter. It's all about having a shot at being relevant in the sport. And by that, it doesn't mean winning championships every year, but being in the mix for it, right? And so, yes, I mean, on the face value, you could say that Mercedes have four teams or teams with their power units that could, in theory, be competing. But that's not what I want.
okay.
I
So
want a Ferrari in
Ammar,
there. That's
Ammar,
yeah. Go
yeah.
ahead.
So okay, let's get this clear from the off. When
Yeah,
Ammar says he wants teams in the fight, he just wants Ferrari. Every time you hear the word team,
we're gonna come back.
just
We're gonna come back to
just
that.
just read that as a synonym for Ferrari. But let's get back to the fundamental question, right? Let's say it doesn't happen. Let's say either you get a really dominant team that heads off into the distance, or we get this horrible sensation that we've been here before. Esteban Ocon said, "Oh, it was quite difficult to follow. I felt a lot of downforce loss when I was following other cars in the high speed corners around Barcelona." His teammate Ollie Behrman said the same thing. So let's say that, after all this talk of we're going to get rid of outwash, we've understood what it is that allows these cars to follow or not follow, as it were. Let's say that doesn't happen. Where are you, Ammar, putting the blame?
I'm putting the blame squarely on the regulation, Shez,
Right.
because again, the
Why is
promise
that?
here is the promise was again we would have more close racing. I mean, there's a reason why they have been talking about having multiple pit stops in Monaco and maybe perhaps in other tracks and all of this stuff. So you can't on the one hand tell me that we're gonna try to make this more exciting of a sport in terms of not knowing the competitive outcome, right, of each race. And then on the other hand, flip around and say, well, okay, we just, I mean, why would you have a massive rule set? I mean, the whole point of having a new formula is to give people a chance that they've sort of never had. And yes, traditionally, it's always been the blue bloods, so to speak, that have had the chance, right? It's your McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes, right? And Red Bull too for the last couple of decades. But in reality, you do want to see teams that again can be in the mix for a good part of the season. I mean, I think it would be amazing to have a Williams up there. I mean, they've been a storied franchise that has been nowhere close to being relevant. Largely their fault, yes, you can argue that. But again, if you're thinking of this from a regulation standpoint, right? The reason you're coming up with this is that the previous set of regulations matured and that teams figured it out. So you have to come out of the gate with some competitiveness that just has not existed. I mean, to me, it's a very simple concept at the end of the day. Like if only one team or one engine manufacturer gets this right, it's not about the team's fault. It's that the regulations failed. That's what it should be.
Okay, so let's say all that is true, right? I think the operative word in what you said is that they have to try. They had to try to make these rules do the things that you want them to do. Okay, but let's think about what they have done so far. They now have a cost cap in terms of development, right?
Yep.
So all
Yep.
teams have the same budget, so you can't spend your way out of it. Number one.
Sure.
Right? They have a, rather than having homologated fixed power units, which they had for the last rule set, they now have a mechanism that if you fall behind, you will get extra credits to develop your power unit. Number two. On top of that, they have said that if you do get too far ahead, that your wind tunnel and CFD allowance gets cut. So you have less time to develop your car. Okay. So my question back to you, Ammar, is if they fail, however you define failure, what more could F1 have done to allow that outcome? Actually, one more thing, because they've also spent a heap of cash researching the physics of this as well, right?
Yeah.
But you have to remember that F1 and the FIA have a limited budget and limited resources to do that research when compared to, even though 145, 100, in fact, I think it's like 160 million this season that the teams have to play with, and the brains trust that they have at those teams to do that. So if F1 and the FIA have not achieved the things that you have said, what more could they have done from a regulatory or a research point of view that means that it's their fault this has happened?
Well, so I'm going to let some of this play out too, right? Because you mentioned a couple new things, right? The idea of falling back and being able to.
Well, that's not new. That's been there for the last
been
rule
there,
set
but
as
isn't
well.
there something with the power unit though,
Yeah,
right?
so the power unit is a new thing. So that's just on the power unit side. But from the aero side, you already have a discredit, or what's the words of
like a disadvantage, or
yeah, correct. So you get a penalty, as it were, for doing really well, because you get your wind tunnel and CFD time cut down. So what more could they do?
Well, what more they could do is come up with technical directives like they have in the past. I mean, that's kind of what they did in 2020. No, this is something that they have. Look, the FIA and Formula One in general have not been shy to kind of put their hands in there, right? And make the competitive order a little bit closer than I guess they want it to be at times, right? So what I would argue is that if these regulations are not working, right, and again, this is why you have to give it some time, particularly with the power units, which seem to be the talk of the town right now going into the season. If that's truly true, and Mercedes have like a 0.4 second advantage, which has been rumored, and they can't have that. They cannot have that, even if it's just Mercedes and McLaren competing, right? They need to have these other teams back in there, because those teams need hope. It's all about having hope. So I'm not suggesting.
But those mechanisms are there. We've talked about them. We've said there are mechanisms inherent in the rule set. And actually, if you talk about technical directives, we had two fairly major technical directives in the last rule set as well. One around flexible wings later on in the course of events, and one around the floor earlier on in the course of events. Yeah. And in both of those, the rules failed to curb the dominance of the team they were aimed at curbing. So that's just physics, isn't it? So what could they?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you stop trying. No, I'm not suggesting
they didn't stop trying. They kept going. What do you do?
And they'll have to keep doing that, and they'll have to keep doing it even better now. They'll have to come up with tests that actually penalize the team. I mean, the whole Flexi Wins drama was, we know it was a little bit of BS, because that thing still continued thereafter. So they're going to have to tighten it up. This is not about, look, at this point, when you made massive changes, it's about making marginal changes. And I'm not suggesting that they haven't done enough. I'm just saying that if the outcome is again Mercedes flying into the distance, then you have to look back and say, well, these didn't work. And then you have to analyze and see, much like when a Formula One team fails on track, they have to go back and look and see, what are they doing? So Shez, maybe to your point, it's not the rule, it's the implementation of it. I mean, with the Flexi Wings, there was a whole lot of drama with that, right? And then
But did it stop? Did it stop McLaren winning the constructors that season, or being
no, it did, but
season?
What the thing is, though, McLaren were winning towards the end of the rule set, right? I'm talking about the beginning of the rule set.
Yeah, they brought in the floor update. Remember TD 013, where
McLaren did, right?
TD 013 was supposed to peg back Red Bull,
porpoising,
right? But actually, all it did, and help out Mercedes, but all it did was just peg back Ferrari.
Yes, well, we can thank Toto Wolff for that. No, like, I mean,
no, you can thank you can thank the regulators for that, as you say, because they did a technical directive, which is what you just asked for.
Yeah, no, I mean, and they have to keep doing that, right? Again, they just have to keep getting. Yes, and they keep doing that. Didn't work. Try something else. Again, if you're at the big look, I don't want to get too far away from
what you're saying, Ammar. Is that if one team, let's say it's Mercedes, are miles ahead of everybody else, you want the FIA and F1 to somehow find a way to peg them back.
Yeah, peg them back slightly. And they said they're going to do that. I'm not suggesting something that's outrageous.
Okay, so I'm fundamentally
not
opposed to that idea. Of course.
Why?
Because F1 is a meritocracy, ultimately. You have now leveled as much as you possibly can. You've leveled the budget. You've leveled the idea that you can't catch up on either the aero or the engine side of things. You have even penalized if you do get ahead. So unless you want there to be clear WEC style balance of performance style things, like if Mercedes get too far ahead, you add ballast to the car. then
No, I don't. Well, okay.
okay. So
Can I?
then what more can they do other
Yeah,
than
they can be more aggressive with allowing more in-season development, right? That can happen real time too.
well, you're
Like they
allowed
don't
as
have
much
to
in-season development as you want
give even
based on
more.
your
Maybe
budget.
it's not enough. Maybe it's not enough.
But it's
Maybe that's
based
the
on
idea.
it's yeah, but Ammar, it's
Maybe
based
that's the
on
idea.
it's based on budget though. So are you
Well,
saying that teams that are not doing as well should be
give them
given
more
more
budget.
money? Okay, so but that's then unleveling the playing field.
Now, why is it unleveling the flame? We have that in other sport. Now, I don't know how it works in your sports over there across the pond, so to speak, right? But we have in basketball and in the NFL, if you're behind, you get to pick first next year. So some of it can be just
But you don't get
creativity
given
around.
more money though. They don't
Yeah,
give you,
but
they don't give you more cash
Shez,
to buy players.
but if it didn't work, right, in the last rule set, if teams couldn't get caught up, then there's something fundamentally broken with that whole system, right? In that it's not working. I'm not casting aspersions or blame on the regulators. I'm just saying that maybe there's room to be even more aggressive with that. Because what we want, Ches, I'm not suggesting that there should not be a meritocracy,
But
but
you are
you
saying
also want to
that.
get. But no, I'm not. Well, I'm not saying
You're,
that. I'm
you're
saying that this is
penalizing if you get ahead.
if it's extreme, right? If it's extreme, look, man,
How
nobody
extreme?
enjoyed
What's extreme?
nobody enjoyed 2023, right? That's my point. Nobody enjoyed 2023 because
I
again,
did.
unless you were Shez, if you're a Max fan, if you're a fan of that of a purist in Formula One, fair enough. All I'm saying is that 2023 was not competitive. I still wouldn't care if Max won or not. The best guy, the best team should win.
Do you want a spec
But
series?
he won like, huh?
Do you want a spec
No,
series?
I don't want anything else made up other than I just want them to be a little bit
Do you
more
understand
aggressive.
what I mean by a spec series? That everyone
is
just
it?
drives
No,
the
I
same
have no-
car.
No, that's not what I want. I didn't
Why not?
ask for that. I'm not
Why
asking
not?
for that
Why not?
because
I mean,
it
because
would
if
take
you
away
want
meritocracy.
but you're already taking away meritocracy. In fact, that was
It's
the
about
biggest,
degrees, Shez.
that was the biggest problem with the balance of performance in WEC. Right? Is that Ferrari was it 2 years ago were suddenly weren't doing as well as Toyota. Toyota got a heap of ballast applied to them. Were told to were made to cut back the amount of power their power unit was making, and suddenly, oh great, now Ferrari are in the running and win
Okay,
them
Shez,
all.
if
So do you think
that's the
okay?
case, if that's the case, then why bring up technical directives about the floor updates and all? Because then
But
you
that's
just
the
go with,
same
okay,
for
it is what it
everyone.
is.
That's the
No,
same
I
for
understand
everyone.
that, but it isn't the same. And the thing
it
that
is.
I'm arguing is the directive is the same, but the impact and the outcome is different because then you're making changes. If you're
Do you
taking the
okay? But
position that you're saying,
do you understand what a
I
technical
understand what you're
directive is?
I understand what it is, but what I'm saying is it didn't quite work, right? I mean, we can all go back now and say maybe that technical directive shouldn't have worked out, and it would have been Ferrari versus Red Bull in 2020.
What is a
Like that.
technical directive?
Well, technical directive is essentially clarifying certain rules,
Clarifying.
right? And,
certain
yes,
rules.
but
So they're not
again,
even changing
I'm
a
not.
rule.
I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about what. Okay, let's take a step back. I'm not arguing that they're doing something. I'm not arguing that they're doing it facetiously. I'm arguing that they can go back and review and see, okay, we did X and the outcome was supposed to be Y, but the outcome was Z or Z, right? That's the point that I'm making. So if you are of the mindset that this is a meritocracy, then you pick a side and say, okay, them are the rules. This is it. Come back to us in 2 years. Nothing. If there's porpoising, you figure it out. In the wise words of Christian Horner, change your bleeping car. Like that's what you're supposed to do. If that's not your position, right, as the FIA and Formula One, then you are already open to making changes. All I'm arguing for is then try to be more aggressive. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying change everything and like, okay, take one wheel off of the Mercedes. That's not what I'm suggesting.
But by cutting back their budget relative to everybody else, that is exactly what you are doing. But
sure, to an extent.
But what is the extent? How far do you take that to penalize people that are doing well? Why are they being penalized?
I don't look at that as penalty. I don't look at that as penalty. In every sport, when you're at the top, others are trying to pull you down. That's how it works. Whether it's politically,
not the governing body. The governing body aren't trying to pull you down.
But what do you mean by governing body? Like
the
they're
FIA
already
and
doing
F1,
that.
You're asking.
Okay, but then are you then now against the rules that are already there? Like, are you against all this reduced CFD time?
Yeah, I am. I already think it's too much.
So then okay, so you if that's your position, then I can't. I mean, we're on the opposite ends of this because I do think that that's what they're doing with reduced CFD time is good because the whole point of this, Shez, isn't to fly off to extremes. It's about having degrees. It's not necessarily about penalizing as much as it's
Ammar,
about
what I'm
equipping
saying
the
to
other
you,
humans.
what I'm saying to you, okay, let's take this to its logical extreme, right? Let's say that Mercedes are miles ahead, right? They've got less CFD and aero time than everybody else. They've got the same budget as everybody else, but now they're a second ahead of everybody else in Melbourne. Two questions. One, at what point do you decide that you're gonna change things to peg them back? When?
A quarter of the season.
Okay, fine. Let's say so. We're what 8 races into the season. Yeah. Right?
6 to 8, yeah, sure.
Yeah. 8 times 4 is 24, I think.
32, but
Jesus.
6 times 4.
This is what I mean. This is why I don't go to. So I don't do maths.
Finally got you. I got
So
you.
anyway, so we've gone a quarter of the way into the season, right? Mercedes is still a second ahead. Let's say you now give Ferrari an extra 100 million. Like we're going to give them 100 million extra dollars to play within their budget, right? We'll review that again after another quarter, another half of the season.
Must be used this season. Must be used right away.
It's fine. It's used straight away, right? They use it straight away. Mercedes are still a second ahead. So now they're still a second ahead, and you've given Ferrari an extra 100 million. They've got more CFD and aero time. Now what do you do? What's your next step?
Can the 100 million go into improving the engine performance, because there's rules that allow for that?
Anything you want.
I think that's good. That's good.
Okay, but Mercedes is still a second ahead. Now what?
Well, I don't believe that Mercedes would be a second ahead. They would be maybe half a second.
This isn't your scenario anymore. This is mine.
But
so we're a second ahead still. It's made no difference.
Of course, if it's made no difference, then it didn't work. You try something else.
Because Ferrari clearly don't know how to spend their money. Fine.
No,
so,
okay,
so
fine.
We've done that. We've given them 100 million, and Mercedes is still 1 second ahead after another 6 to 8 races. Now what? What are we doing next?
Yeah. Now what you do is you give them another 100 million. That's what you keep doing.
So you just keep giving the teams behind extra budget in a sport which we are already saying is resource overloaded, right? We're trying to cut spend to try and improve the profitability of the teams and the health of the sport. But let's put that aside. We've now given Ferrari. You're asking for Ferrari to have
it's your scenario in which you're giving them $100 million.
No,
I'm suggesting give them the ability to improve their engine in season.
Yeah, all of that. But they have to have money to do that.
Whatever they do,
those mechanisms are already there, Ammar.
Yes, but the caveat on this is this has to make an immediate impact. It cannot be, we're going to bank this for next year.
Yeah, fine. That's what I'm agreeing with you.
That's all.
You give them 100 million, they spend it straight away. And Mercedes is still a second ahead. You're going to give them another 100 million. Fine. Let's say Mercedes is still another second ahead after that. Now what?
You keep doing that until they catch up. Eventually,
so where's this money coming from?
Well, again, I'm not suggesting more money. Shez.
You just said you give an extra 100 million.
I'm playing your scenario. I'm playing your unique scenario. What I'm arguing actually is not even giving more money. I'm just saying, think about mechanisms that really push and allow for teams.
Like what? What?
But they're not working well enough right now. That's my point. That's my point.
What?
So I'm hoping that they will in 26. That's all. I'm not saying, look, this is why you have to play it out. So that's why you said, as we wait a quarter of the season, 6 races, let's see where we're at.
Yeah. But you can't plan. You can't plan to change something and then make up what you're going to change at 6 to 8 races. So my question is, at 6 to 8 races,
I agree with you.
No. I don't want you to agree with me. I'm going
to tell you why now.
I want you to take this to where this is going for you. So you get to 6 to 8 races. Mercedes is still a second ahead. You've now given Ferrari an extra 100 million.
Not just Ferrari, by the way.
Yeah, everyone else, fine. To however you want to give that cash, right? You've given everyone extra budget to spend there and then, engine, aero, whatever. They do that. And in 6 to 8 races, Mercedes is still a second ahead because nothing's changed. Now what?
Then clearly the money part wasn't working. So
what are you going to
have to figure? I don't know. You got to figure. It's just, this is what I'm saying. You're expecting me to come up with specifics. I'm arguing about the philosophy and the strategy of it. You're arguing tactics with me.
But because there has to be a pragmatic implementation of what you are suggesting. Because
absolutely,
Ammar, I will tell you the fundamental flaw in your hypothesis, right? The fundamental flaw is that you are basically trying to fight physics. That's what
No.
you're trying to do. If Mercedes is a second ahead because they have done better work, no amount of extra cash, unless Ferrari are basically copying or just photocopying what Mercedes are doing, is going to catch them up. If they can't follow, for example, no. If they can't follow in the corners, let's take that extra second quicker. If they can't follow in the corners, that's a physics problem. Right, that's not a FIA regulations problem. And yes, they can put in methods to try and change that, which they have done in the last rule set, and they will continue to do again here, number one. And the second is that unless you are calling for either a spec series of car, or you are saying that you gratuitously disadvantage cars that have done well, then you are artificially bringing the grid together, which by the way will happen anyway over the course of a rule set, which it did in the last rule set too.
Okay, so I'll give you this. Okay, again, my premise on this was that the 2026 rule set does not work if it does not bring competition closer, right? So let's go back to the starting point. I agree with you. Do not tinker with this too much. I agree with you. However, if that is your position, Shez, then there should be no technical directives. You figure out whatever the issues are. Your drivers' heads are exploding because the cars are bouncing, porpoising. Sure, it's your problem. No more clarification, no more technical. If the wings are flexing, ain't my problem. You guys go develop. That's if you're gonna argue that, that's the thing. And then, oh, by the way, then stop doing mandatory 2 pit stops races. Okay, stop thinking about reverse grids, which seems more and more like a real possibility. My point to you is quite simply, they're already trying all these things. They're artificially trying to have more competition. So if you're willing to do that, then you can be willing to look at how you've decided how you're going to manage these regulations and tinker with it as you will, because that's what you want at the end of the day. You want competition. So you cannot tell me on the one hand, those reverse grids are a great idea, but on the other hand, tell me that if Mercedes are a second away, you're not doing anything to just bring the competition closer.
By the way, the
argument.
I'm not saying
but that's what you're telling. There's a fundamental flaw in my argument.
Yeah.
But this is my wish list for something that the sport can do to just make it a little bit more appetizing. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, I'm a purist. Yeah. I don't mind that, but
I don't think you are, because you're asking for a balance of performance. Look, just to get back to my fundamental disagreement with you about this,
we got to move on to the next thing.
Yeah, I know we do, but look, we can finish on this if you like. But the problem with what you're saying is that you are placing the blame on this not working squarely on the F1 and the FIA. That is what you have said, right? If it doesn't work, it's their fault. And my argument to you is, I don't think that there is much more they can do within the regulations they have written, and forget that. The regulations they have written already do the things that you are asking them to do. And if that still doesn't work, I think you just have to accept that certain Formula One teams are better at interpreting the rules than others are. That's the whole point of being a Formula One team, is finding those loopholes and gaining performance. That's why it's a meritocracy. If you don't want that, watch F2.
Oof, wow, that is a Karun Chando kind of thing. I mean, you are now hitting me with that. Okay, Stefano, sure, I'm just telling you. Then you go out and try to sell your races to everybody, and they're going to say you have one team, and so, or it's only Max Verstappen winning, and you wait and see how that works out. I'm not arguing with you that this is a meritocracy. I do not want to change the sport fundamentally. I did not come up with these regulations. I did not come up with, technical directives and mandatory pit stops and all that. All I'm saying is, if you're willing to go down that path, then you're already admitting that what we're creating in terms of regulations that are, done 3-4 years in advance, however long they are, the outcome of that is not what you intend for it to be. So I'm not placing blame on them, but they cannot turn around and say, okay, this was a great rule set. They could have just left the previous rules and let teams catch up, and then
they already caught up. They already caught up. It was
they already caught. So maybe just give more years, keep it for 10 years, and eventually someone's going to catch up. And that's fine.
But the cars couldn't follow, so that was a big problem.
Okay, so that's fine. So then keep finding ways for them to not follow. Come up with even more restrictions. I mean, look, this is all about a sliding scale, and it's all on a spectrum. I'm not arguing for it to become F2, but at the same time, it cannot just
That sounds
continue
like
to
you
be
are.
like one team. Oh, okay, it is.
Could-
All right. Speaking of which, let's move on. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck at topic number one. What do you think, Shez? Great drivers will always shine regardless of the regs, right? So, what do you think these regulations kind of bring the drivers together in terms of, because there's so much at their disposal, right? So my wish list is to really kind of see who comes out ahead in terms of just being able to shine in these regulations. And I don't want to argue who's going to be better or who's going to be worse, all that. But do you think that we now finally get to a point where we can see the greatness shine in ways that we have not already?
For certain drivers, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Are you expecting 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 drivers to be, kind of shine? How do we evaluate that? How do we? Because look, if it's not going to be the regulations, right? Can we be excited from a driver competitive standpoint? Right? Can we be that? Like, I'm just looking for something. I'm looking for hope here.
I don't quite understand the question though. Are you looking for somebody to be exposed, or are you looking for greatness? I don't understand which one of those you want.
Well, I'm looking to see if drivers are going to be more tested than ever before, and which driver is going to come out, and which drivers are going to actually shine. Is this going to change the competitive order in terms of who we think is actually pretty good? Because in the past, we've credited stuff like tire management and managing a race, but now that you have so many buttons at your disposal, arguably the complexity is far more than before, right? Let's
talk about that, because there's two sides to this, right? There's a vehicle dynamic side, and there's a how you handle,
Sure.
how you mind manage the stuff that you've got going in front of you, right? To the latter, I would say that these guys spend a heap of time in the simulator, so pressing buttons and stuff, it will become second nature to them. They'll have a heap of testing that they've already done in Barcelona. They'll do it again twice over 6 days in Bahrain. So they'll have plenty of time to get used to how the different modes work. Now, how those modes are applied, either in qualifying or in battle in a race, is where you might see a difference. But at that point, the driver isn't alone, either before the race or during the race. So Ocon, I think, made quite a good point during the Barcelona test, was that, look, you'll work out at different tracks what the best way is to get a qualifying lap out of the car, but you're not going to do that on the first lap of practice, right? You're going to do a few qualifying runs. You'll go back and look over the data with your engineers. You'll run it a few times in the sim. And he placed the emphasis. He said 80% of that work is going to be the engineers working out what the best way to harvest and deploy energy is going to be over a qualifying lap. And 20% of it is going to be us actually executing that plan. Right. So in qualifying, that's what it is. In the, or what it might end up being. But in the race, it could be completely different in terms of how they harvest energy, how they deploy energy. And that again isn't down to the driver themselves. Like we're not in a no driver coaching era as we were in the past. Race engineers are allowed to tell their drivers whatever they want. So they might say after a couple of laps, actually maybe you could you could come off the throttle and lift and coast a little bit more in this corner to give yourself a bit more energy to be able to have more pace on the next straight. And that might give us, to your first point, actually what I want to see is that what they promised us in terms of passing in different slightly unusual spots might become a thing. I'd love to see that. But that isn't going to be just based on the driver. Yes, the driver will have part of that. Certain drivers, I'm sure, will be better at it than others. But I think that over the course of a season, it's ultimately still just another race car. And what you and these are just another set of tools. And what you do and how you learn how to use those tools will kind of condense down. Everyone will understand what they need to do. I mean, a good example of that is, in 2008, Lewis Hamilton won the Silverstone Grand Prix by like a minute, and he was taking lines that other people were not taking. You fast forward again to the to the Brazilian Grand Prix that year. The rain comes down. It becomes a little bit more difficult to drive. And actually, other drivers have caught up. They've been watching his onboards. They've understood the telemetry, and they're now doing the same thing that he was. So drivers, as well as engineers, understand what techniques need to be used. So you'd expect that over time, actually, the button pressing side of things will probably converge. But in terms of the dynamics, that's different. Okay, so what we talked about in the last video was that the ground effect car suited a particular type of driving. There was a very prescribed one way of driving those cars that got pace out of them. With these cars, we expect that with more rake, difference in ride height, a little bit more pitch and dive in the attitude of the car, the drivers will have a bigger range of setup options, and the feel of the cars through the corners will be slightly different. There is a bone I want to pick with you a little bit about oversteery cars. We'll come back to that in a second.
No, not right.
But there's also, like you said, a tire management issue, right? So these cars have got a huge amount of power, right? And it's all dumped immediately at the start of a straight, right? They're going to have huge acceleration because of the amount of power that they are putting down. But the tires have become narrower, both front and rear, compared to what they were before. So you're left in a situation where you have more power and less contact patch, and therefore you'd expect that actually degradation goes up. It would be harder to maintain your tires. So tire management, regardless of what you felt about it in the last rule set, is still going to be a thing here. And the drivers that were good at it before will probably still be pretty good at it now. But I do think that this rule set will allow for drivers that had a different way of driving, a different way of rotating the car, because that's really what this is about, to be able to express themselves and bring performance in a way that they were not able to necessarily before. But yeah, does it ruin reputations? I don't know. You're just going to see different traits shine through.
Well, I think you hit up on what I was trying to get there, which this is the part that makes me really, really excited. I mean, this is my second best exciting thing of the season, in that it does give you a little bit of a level playing field, but it kind of sort of doesn't also, right? In the sense that in the past you could give Max or Lewis, or maybe even on the odd occasion George or Charles, some credit for the way they drove with some coaching. But I think this is so much more integrated now, to your point about how do you sort of map a track and how do you sort of work through it, not just in qualifying, but also in racing, right? And so now to me, it feels like, at least the way it reads and the way it sounds right now, is that engineers will be far more involved than they've been in the past, right? So if that's the case, how are we going to assign greatness to a driver? Are we going to give full credit to the engineer, or are we going to give it to the driver? Or are we going to be able to share it? And to me, that's the storyline aspect of it. You explained the technical side of it amazingly well, Shez. I love, from an season interest slash engagement standpoint, this idea of us going through the list and saying, well, what is the pecking order in terms of the best drivers here? And then hopefully we're going to pair it up with their engineers and see what's going to happen. I mean, there's the reason why Lewis Hamilton changed his engineer heading into this season too. And part of it is because there's going to need to be more synergy, more symmetry in sort of how they approach a race. So just as you suggested, qualifying, there's certain areas where you can push, there's certain areas where you can't. That's probably going to be worked out over the course of 50, 60, 70 lap race also, right? What do you do in the safety car? And all those kind of things will come into play that have not in the past too. And so that's what makes me excited about this one. And I think it'll be fun to kind of go back and digest and see who's doing it better than the others. And it'll be a really good time to see whether is still GP with Max or not. I thought he was leaving. I don't know. Maybe he is. Is he still as great as he is or not? Or is it Brian Botzier coming on? Or what is it like? Or is it going to be that we are checking and have a cup of tea at it? Like, that's the kind of fun stuff that I'm looking forward to.
Okay, but what does that tell you about who's the better driver?
Well, I think you, for me, you're not going to be able to tell who the better driver is anymore, except in for specific situation. I really do. I mean, if you're going to be genuine about this, again, you explain the technicality of this very well. If you are going to rely on your engineer as probably far more than you ever have, right? Again, this may not work out to be the way it is. I think this is more about, again, teammates in terms of you and your engineer. I think pit strategies will become interesting. I think everything else kind of gets tossed up. So in some ways, for me, Shez, it's a level set, right? I hope we'll give ourselves the chance of appreciating greatness while also recognizing that there might be, new drivers that are acing this with their engineer in it. And so I'm looking for that totally nuanced argument that we'll have, that well, maybe Carlos Sainz is the best driver right now, right? And see how the heads explode when that happens. That's totally going to happen because we have all kinds of nuance and all of that. Who knows? Maybe he doesn't, but this is my dream scenario again for making this season interesting, one of the best ever. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm not predicting anything right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think, look, the quote that came out of Barcelona for me that stuck with me was the fact that George Russell turned around and said, "Look, it's still a race car. Like, you still have to,
Sure it is.
You still have to drive a race car."
Yes.
And if that's the case, then this is just an exercise in extracting pace from your car and going as quick as you can over the course of a qualifying lap or over the course of a race. And history tells us that over a long period of time, the drivers that have been able to do that well in one rule set are able to do that well in another rule set, because actually all they're doing is just extracting pace in whatever way they need to from that rule set that they have in front of them. And in terms of the race engineer driver dynamic, in terms of what they need to do in button pressing, deploying energy, harnessing energy, all of those things will ultimately, I think, converge over time. Drivers don't work in isolation, and they don't work in a silo with no information from other teams. So they will understand what other drivers have been doing at certain times that have worked or not worked, and they will copy them. And they're very good at practicing again and again and again what does work to get them faster.
Yeah.
And to that end, I think what will happen is that the drivers that we expect to do well, the Maxes, the Landos, the Georges, the Lewises, they will continue to do well, even in this rule set. The degree to which they do well will be dictated by how much greater than their competitors they are. And that's always been the case. I don't think that changes.
Yeah, I don't think it'll change over the course of time again. But for 2026 to be interesting, I think it would just be nice to see some chaos. Speaking of which, let's go to the next one. Teammate wars, right? We do this often at the start of a season. We do these teammate wars. But I truly, truly hope that 2026 will be the time when we see some teammates go at it. And I'm looking at you, McLaren, because that's where we're all kind of looking for. But really, having two title-capable drivers, just and less PR buffering would be great to kind of have that. Like, I want to see two drivers within the team. Everyone gets along very well, Shez. Have you noticed that? Like, everyone gets along very well. Like, I don't want that. Like, I want some animosity. I want some ruthlessness. I want a Fernando Alonso, Lewis Hamilton style season where they're actively there's some sabotaging going on actively between the drivers. What do you think of that? Should we have that kind of scenario in 2026? Would it be fun? Would you like it, or are you like, nah, I don't want any of that?
I don't mind. Whatever gives me a good championship battle. Look, 2021 was perfect for me. You had two drivers in cars optimized for them at roughly equal competitive levels in terms of the car. And it was an absolutely epic, nail-biting season down to the last lap. 2025 was also very, very interesting because you had two drivers within one team being caught by a driver who was being prioritized by his team. I don't think there is a one-size-fits-all for every scenario. In a team like McLaren, though, where you have two drivers that are ostensibly capable of winning a championship, of course I want them to have equal opportunities. But what I have argued for is not that they should scrap papaya rules or that they should favor one driver over the other. Absolutely not. But what I wanted and didn't necessarily get was where they expressed a desire to have fairness and equality between their two drivers. I didn't necessarily feel that they practiced what they preached. That was my problem with McLaren last year.
Yeah, I think again they've come out with sort of an updated version of papaya rules,
which we
for
are not party to,
2026,
by the way.
which we are not party to, but we have already done an episode on this a few weeks ago. So go back and see that. And I think we're all kind of in agreement, right? The premise, the overarching philosophy of this is completely fine. No problem in trying to have as much fairness as possible. I I think the question isn't whether you have fairness or not. I think the question is whether you remove as many inequities as you possibly can, right? So you sort of have to look at this the other way and say you're not necessarily,
But what does that mean, Ammar?
what that means is you avoid the extreme scenarios. That's all you
Like
can
what?
do. I mean, it just, well, not
If
not
there's
doing
a,
pit
if there's
stops,
a if
and
there's a slow pit stop, you swap the drivers.
that's part of racing, right? That should not have happened. It again, we've argued. I don't want to go down this path. It happened because of the way McLaren were doing stuff in 2025, and whether we agree or not, that's what they chose. It sounds like that's not what they're choosing. So actually, you said it right. This should not happen for next year too. But I also just want to see a little bit more ruthlessness among teammates. I think it's fair to be ruthless when you are going at it against another team. That's fine. But having a battle within the team, I think, just makes for a very exciting season because you didn't quite know. The part that frustrated us about the way McLaren went about racing is even though there was a teammate battle, they sort of handled it to a point where it just became such a mess, and we were just arguing about Monza the whole time. That kind of became the centerpiece of it. Versus two drivers actually like not giving each other space on track, like actively sort of like competing with each other as if they were competing with someone from another team, right? You have to kind of put Max out of this conversation because the second Red Bull driver philosophy is kind of a joke. And no, Isaac is not a joke, but I'm just saying that the second Red Bull seat is just sort of performative, really. So I'm really looking at a McLaren, a Ferrari sort of going to battle, and even a Mercedes if Kimi Antonelli is the real deal. I think that would be interesting to see in this season if you could really have an inter-team battle where teammates are literally fighting over each other for points, and that I think would just add to a little bit more drama in the season, especially if the competitive order, as we've established earlier, is going to be Mercedes 1 second in the distance, right? If that's the case, I at least want to have something where two teammates are sort of going nuclear, and there's all kinds of like drama around it. Like if that makes for a good drive to survive. Really.
Yeah, like I said, I don't mind. I want the best drivers up there fighting for the championship. Like how the dynamics within the team work out, it doesn't really matter to me. But if George,
it'd be more fun though, no?
If George, Lando, Oscar, and Max, and Charles and Lewis, sure, are all in a championship battle, yeah, great. Great. Well, I mean, and sure, in that scenario, yes, I would want there to be equity at Ferrari and equity at McLaren and equity at Mercedes, sure. But I don't need that necessarily if I get a good battle between drivers that I know are capable of fighting for a championship. That's.
I mean, you're going to get that anyway, right? You could probably if other things are equal. Man, come on! I want you to enjoy a little bit. Come on, like let's go for the drama.
Enjoy
really,
I think there would be enough drama.
Sell more seats here.
I think there would be enough drama in my scenario not to have to force the issue. Anyway,
well, it would be nice. Keeping up with the Hamiltons would be fun. So, speaking of that,
yeah, go on. It's your favorite topic. Let's go.
Speaking of that, what I think really Formula One needs this season is Ferrari being at the forefront. Yes, being good. And again, I want to caveat all of this because all of you are going to come at me with like, hey, you back off a little bit. I am not suggesting
can I just ask you a question? If Ferrari are 1 second ahead of everybody else, do you still want them to do all the pegging?
Yes,
stuff?
Absolutely. Oh, okay. Absolutely, I do. I am consistent. Again, I am not going into your extreme. I'm asking for more overall competitiveness, right? But at the same hand, you cannot have Ferrari doing what they've done for the last 3, 4, 5 years. You cannot have them being not necessarily irrelevant, but being mediocre at best and only showing flashes of competence. You need to see Ferrari be in it for a 24 race season, ideally until the last race of the season, because when you have Ferrari in there, the sport just shines, right? It's just like with any other, premier team, a storied franchise in any other sport. When they're in it, there's just more interest. There's just a better vibe around everything. And that's all I'm asking for. I am not suggesting that Ferrari go ahead and win. I would love for them to win everything, but I also know that that's really not going to happen. I kind of know that, but I just want them to be in the mix. And I think that Shez, for the sport, really, particularly for this rule set, and to make the season interesting, Ferrari running at the forefront would be funny and fun. It would be funny because I'm sure they're going to screw something up. We've had that happen in the past, right? Was it Monaco 22 or 23? 23, I think, right? 22. when they messed up Charles Leclerc's pole, and then he came in P4 or something with the rain and all. I don't know if it's so. You see my PTSD with it. All I'm arguing for, Shez, is Ferrari being in the mix is going to be absolutely chaos and fun. Tell me I'm wrong.
Were you enjoying it when Ferrari were winning 16 out of 18 races in 2004? Was that fun for you?
Yeah, I mean, look, that was dominance, right? So that's the Mercedes version of being a second ahead, right? If that's what you want.
Yeah, but it's Ferrari,
look,
and as long as Ferrari are winning, it's great, isn't it?
No, as a biased fan, that would be great. But what I'm arguing for is that Ferrari being 16 out of 24 races this year, because that doesn't necessarily mean that they're winning it all, but that does mean that they're back, and that's all they need. They need to be back, not just in marketing speak and in pictures and Vanity Fair and whatnot. They need to be back on the track, and they need to be back right away, Jack.
Sure. I mean, Ferrari haven't been relevant for about 3 or 4 seasons now. And they were relevant last year because there was an intra team addition that made it suddenly quite interesting to watch what was happening at Ferrari. But in terms of championship potential, they weren't really there from quite early on. So, did you think last season wasn't a good season to watch?
Really? Last season was a good season to watch for Ferrari fans?
No, not for Ferrari fans. I mean overall, because you're saying that F1 is better off if Ferrari are in the mix, and I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that. But are you saying that last season was a bit of a dud because Ferrari weren't in it?
I'm not saying that it's a dud. I think it would have been much better if the 2 Ferrari drivers were in it. No, I mean, we wouldn't have been solely focused on Papaya rules. We would have been focused on what is the Tifosi version of Papaya rules. I don't know, Apple rules, whatever you want to call it. Like, that's because you don't want to upset the Apple card. Get it? Benedict, okay, whatever. It wouldn't have been more fun from a viewing perspective, from an argument perspective, to see whether Ferrari are favoring Lewis or Charles, but we never got to anything close to that because they were just not relevant. And all I want to see is let's test them and see where all of this lies. I mean, it's easy to pile on McLaren, right? But I think arguably would have been a disaster class if Ferrari were handling that. And look, as a Ferrari fan, I would be dying every race. But I think, again, I'm stepping outside of my biases here, and I have an F1 T-shirt today, right? And I'm thinking about the sport as a whole. I am Stefano Domenicali today, Shez. I'm thinking about dream scenarios that make it even more interesting. So I don't care if they win or not at the end of the day. It'd be amazing if they did. I think for them to be in it, right? Again, that would be fun. That's all I'm arguing for. It's a very simple ask, Shez. I don't know why you feel it's unreasonable. I'm looking at you. You're looking at me like I'm being unreasonable.
No, I'm very happy for Ferrari to be in there. Another team in there. I feel like all of the nonsense that goes on around the operations and strategy at Ferrari is dealt with fairly heavily, whether they are in the mix or not. I think that changes very little, other than it would have bigger consequences for both team and drivers.
So who do you think they favor? Who do you think they'll favor? Let's just assume that they're
whoever's fastest.
No, come on, you can't say that. Like,
why? I mean, that's the truth.
Okay, let's say they have the McLaren version of 2 drivers competitive. What do you? They're right within each other. Like, they're not like, a race ahead.
I think that they may have a bias towards one driver or the other, but their incompetence.
Look at you. Non-committing.
But their incompetence would mean that whatever they had planned would work out badly. So
what do you think they have planned? Come on, get behind Fred's head. Like, what is his dream? His dream scenario has got to be like one driver winning. Like, he's got to have something, right? Because you argued that you cannot have two equal drivers. At the end of the day, you're gonna have. I mean, you accuse Zach Brown of being biased towards Lando. I mean, so come on, tell me what it is with Fred.
I think Fred wants to get through a quarter of the season without getting sacked.
You're not going to be brave enough. Okay, all right. I'm just saying, Shez is not picking a driver. Like, this is but this is just it, Shez. I mean, you're actually making my point for me, which is there's intrigue and drama in not knowing who Ferrari are going to back. And again, if they're competing for a drivers' championship in particular, that would be an amazing thing to get played out. I mean, all of John Elkann's TMZ style newspapers would really have a field day.
I feel like this is very close to your heart, and I'm sure there are lots of Ferrari fans out there.
Funny, you won't commit to one driver.
And Tifosi are going to be super, super excited that Ferrari do well. But I am too, but only in so much as I want that team. I want a team to be in the mix. I want all teams to have a chance.
So
And if it means that Lewis and Charles are able to be up there fighting for wins, boom, that's great for me. Let's move on to the next one.
he will not commit to one driver or the other. Okay, cool enough. All right, my final point. Again, some of this has already started, which is power unit real chaos, right? We're already seeing stuff happening. I mean, not a single day passes by when I hear about another meeting happening. And I think the last we have as of today is that there's another meeting happening on the power units and the engine compression ratio. So what should we make of all of this, Shez? Again, I'm again looking at this from the lens of a dream scenario to make the F1 2026 season intriguing, exciting, having us hooked onto it in ways that we weren't before, right? What is it that we need to see happen in terms of this chaos that would be like, wow, we're not talking about necessarily what happens on track, right? Just I think you're going to argue again, meritocracy. We've covered that. What do you want to see happen for the year in terms of real chaos and controversy?
I don't know. Ideally, I'd like to see other teams like have a chance of catching up with that technology and being able to apply it. But I just don't think they will be able to. I think Ferrari said that yeah, they're going to try because it's unlikely that the FIA are going to say, no, this is illegal. I think the biggest, most controversial thing that could happen is that we turn up in Melbourne and there's a formal protest put in by Ferrari, Honda, or Audi, and they say, they're running this compression ratio thing. How anyone would measure that, I don't even know, because at the last meeting, the agreement was that they would come up with a way to measure dynamically what the compression ratio is, but they don't have that yet, and certainly nothing that they can actually apply. So yes, a protest would be controversial, but I don't think anything would come of it. So more likely what will happen is that the teams that don't have, that aren't using this trick will find a way to develop it into their power unit. But as sort of Ferrari kind of said, with development cycles and manufacturing and stuff, it just won't happen before 2027. Now, look, the caveat to all of this is that we're talking about this one thing, and as you have said a few times before, and I think this is true, that it might be covering up other technologies that other teams are using, either on a power unit or an aero side of things, that confers performance. So this is a very multifaceted spider web situation, right? There's lots of different things that feed into performance, and the compression ratio thing is one. We're being told that it's worth quite a bit, up to 15 brake horsepower, 3/4 tenths of a second, but we don't know if particular fuels are going to be more effective than others, whether Adrian Newey's aero genius is going to be able to overcome whatever deficiencies there are in the Honda power unit, which we just don't know. So it could roll on and become a big issue, or it might die into nothing because actually everyone's very competitive through the middle of the season.
So I agree with you. I think that this is the fun aspect of this season, because we've had so much hype around engine compression ratios, and you're right, we don't know how all of this is going to work out. What's fun about this season is there are so many intriguing storylines. I mean, Aston Martin are in the mix for different reasons. Red Bull is a bit of a wild card, as you just said. I mean, all these things are all going to be quite amazing. I love the idea of getting to Melbourne and then a protest being sprung in, because we're going to have controversy from race one, and in some ways that could be the best thing that the sport could have at the beginning of this rule set, because it's going to get us hooked onto it. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. Clearly Mercedes cannot be disqualified for some reason, because it seems that they've done all the checking with F1 throughout the development of this, and yet there's going to be the question of, well, what about us, right, as far as the other power unit manufacturers go, right? So I think that makes for an epic political fallout. Excuse me. And then Toto Wolff has already kind of put fuel on the fire too, right? And said, change your car or get over it, or whatever it is that he said. And I think that makes for an amazing season. So I agree with you. I mean, and this stuff has already played out. To me, this is one of my dream scenarios playing out in terms of just making the season more enticing and exciting, right? we're going to talk about the X's and O's, the strategy and all, but I think the political stuff is what makes F1 exciting as a sport to be hooked onto, at least for those that are new to the sport and don't quite, are able to reconcile why one team is so far ahead and the others are not, right? We've covered a lot of ground on that, Shez. But I love the idea of having a political fallout because I think it wouldn't be F1 if we didn't have that. And I think we already have that to start the season. We haven't even talked about silly season and driver carousel yet. So that's quite an amazing way to start the season. So I 100% agree with you, Shez. And
Hey,
hey,
that almost
so
never happens.
that almost never. So we should just go ahead and end here, right? Let's go ahead and do that. All right. So those were our top 5 dream scenarios for the 2026 season. Let us know what you think. Did we miss one? Were we too crazy to talk about regulations actually working or not? Should Ferrari be in the mix? Are they going to be new dominant drivers? Yes or no? Tell us in your comments. Please like, please subscribe, please leave us a comment. We check every single one. We reply to as many as we can. And we will see you guys in the next one. Shez, come on, say it for me. Say it for me.
Fix something F1? I mean, I don't know. How does this
Fix
work?
it, Fred. All right.